Alrighty guys, welcome back. Have a seat, grab some coffee. We're on Genesis chapter 34 today. Alright, so we're going into Canaan now. Jacob and his family. He just met with Esau and going back to his homeland. And what you can picture with Canaan is, if you've ever seen Mad Max and Thunderdome, well, there we go. That's what he's going to. Okay, so here we are, verse 1. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. So that's a bad move, Dinah, because God warned about mixing with the Canaanites. Okay, verse 2. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, which is in the area of Canaan, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. He was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this young girl for a wife." Now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter, but his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob kept silent until they came in. Verse 6. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. Now the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved. And they were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter. For such a thing ought not to be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open before you. Live and trade in it, and acquire property in it." Verse 11. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, meaning Israel and his sons, "If I find favor in your sight, then I will give whatever you say to me. Ask me ever so much bridal payment and gift, and I will give according as you say to me. But give me the girl in marriage." But Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. They said to them, "We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us." And if you missed our discussion on circumcision, that was back in my video on Genesis chapter 17, if you want to check that out. Verse 15. "Only on this condition will we consent to you, if you will become like us, and that every male of you be circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for ourselves, and we will live with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and go." So the demands here, the demand is still disobedient to God and Abraham's request not to intermarry with the Canaanites. This proposal would be a misuse of the circumcision sign of the Abrahamic covenant. Verse 18. Now their words seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. Now call me crazy, but maybe putting like some tree ointment oil on a circumcision doesn't sound very reasonable to me. But okay, verse 19. The young man did not delay to do the thing, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, "These men are friendly with us. Therefore let them live in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition will the men consent to us to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will live with us." All who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and to his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. Verse 25. Now it came about on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came upon the city unaware and killed every male. Here we go. Verse 26. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house, and went forth. Jacob's sons came upon the slain and looted the city because they had defiled their sister. Okay, so they make them get circumcised, they murder them, and then they rob them. I mean, I get the anger, but two wrongs don't make a right, especially when your dad talks directly with God. Just saying. Verse 28. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field. And they captured and looted all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives, even all that was in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me odious," which means repulsive, "among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And my men being few in number, they will gather together against me and attack me, and I will be destroyed, I and my household." Yeah, you think? Verse 31. But they said, "Should he treat our sister as a harlot?" Okay, and the chapter comes to an abrupt end as a to be continued type of chapter. And I'm going to read some thoughts that I recorded here. So Jacob's sons had a bit of a predicament on their hands, obviously. The law wasn't in place yet. As I mentioned, this was kind of like a Thunderdome society. And what happened to their sister is inexcusable. But how quickly they forget whom they have direct access to for wisdom, and that is God. I mean, Jacob's kids had to have known the stories about Noah, Abraham, and Isaac, and more recently, Jacob's wrestling match. They had to have known that they could approach God directly through prayer. And God, in the New Testament says, leave vengeance to God. Basically, don't seek revenge, just leave it to God. Or government. Government was put in place too, but not at this time. So, and even though we don't hear God audibly today or have wrestling matches with him in our backyards, the New Testament reveals to us that we now have his recorded word, and he still hears our prayers and intervenes in our circumstances today. Scripture also reveals to us that the events of the patriarchs and people throughout the Bible were recorded for us to learn from. Romans 15 verse 4 tells us that whatever was written in the former days was written for our instruction, that through endurance and through the encouragement of the Scriptures, we might have hope. So I don't want anybody here to think that God isn't involved in our daily affairs just because we don't experience theophanies or hear an audible voice. That changed after the coming of Christ and the recording of the Bible, but he's still as alive and real as ever. I personally experienced an amazing answer to prayer this week that really still blows my mind. And I just want everybody to know how real, awesome, and great he is, and to stay close to him. And one day we will be in his presence, and all suffering and sadness will be gone for good. So I can't wait, but I love you guys, and I'm glad to be here. So stay tuned for chapter 35, and we'll get into that tomorrow. God bless you. Talk to you soon.